I'm on my way out to Big South Fork. Gonna meet Papaw in the woods out there. It's a trip we planned the last time we met up, actually. Going to go deep into the Big South Fork area. Gonna meet at Terry Cemetery and spend a couple days out in the No Business Creek, No Business drainage area. I've got a map of some old sites. I downloaded the USGS map from 1955 before the land was belonged to the National Park Service, and the old maps have houses, barns, homesteads, anyhow it has sites of occupation. So we're going to go out there, spend a couple days, see if we can't find some of the old sites, see if we can't learn a little bit about the community that has since passed on, and see the geological sites as well. So it's about a 5-hour drive for me. Getting a fairly early start, a little bit later than I intended, but still not too bad all in all. And when we get things started, why don't you come along? So, I made it here to the Terry Cemetery trailhead parking lot. The cemetery was just up the hill just a little ways, and I'm now waiting on Papaw. Our plan is to go into the No Business Creek drainage area. Mods Crack is just a little ways that way, and I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do our route, but we're going to go into the drainage area and then see if we can't explore some of the where the No Business community used to be. At its heyday in the late 1800s, it was home for more than 300 people and is one of the larger former communities in what is the Big South Fork area. So we'll just sit here and wait for Papaw to get here and take you along with us. And here comes Papaw. And we are underway finally. We spent a good little half hour or so just visiting in the parking lot, and we are now starting our trip. We're going down a little section of trail I haven't been on before. The last time out here, we went straight to Mods Crack and back. So, it's a beautiful day, probably mid-60s. The sky's about as blue as you're going to see here in Tennessee. No haze, no nothing, and looking really forward to our trip. So we got ourselves a camp spot for the next couple days, it looks like. There's somebody's already got a fire ring, a little bench for us. Papaw's scoping out a place for his set of hammock. We're going to be met tomorrow by Kerry Woolbright. He's not going to camp with us, he's going to spend the day with us, but he's another YouTuber. Lives in this area, does a lot of Big South Fork stuff. You ought to check out his channel also. And There is No Business Creek down there. I am thinking about stringing my hammock right in this little area here. It looks like we got ourselves a home. Okay, so there's little No Business Creek. It's a nice peaceful sounding little feller. And here we are. We finally got camp set up. There's my setup here, my hammock, tarp. I'm going with the my over quilt and my under blanket, and that should be plenty for. I think for the most part it's going to be in the 50s. There is one night that should be down in the mid 40s, I think, but I'll be fine. And we've got Papaw's hammock and set up here. An already built fire ring and some benches, as we mentioned first time. And up here, Papaw is hanging his food bag. We found a nice, good overhanging tree branch, I don't know, 25 feet up maybe. And so we got our food bags hanging up. And we are just about situated. We're going to go exploring here in a few minutes. Okay, so we are heading out. Going to do a little bit of exploring this afternoon. I think we're heading towards the Ransom Boyatt farm. Fixing to cross the creek though. That's got to be fun. And I'll show you here real quick. This is the little. We followed this little guy in, this little stream over here, and we're just camped up there on the corner. But this little stream here is going to feed the No Business Creek area. And then there's No Business down here, which we're going to fix and across. We are fixing to come into the Ransom Boyatt, farmstead site. And my understanding is it's about a 2-acre field, and it's all that's left now is just the chimney, but it's where the cabin and the farm was for Ransom Boyatt back in the 1930s. Yeah, this is. So there is all that's left of the Ransom Boyatt house. It's just the chimney. Let's see if I can't tell you that story as best as I can. In the mid-1930s, he is a farmer living out here. I think already had 7 children in his 60s. And one of his sons got in some trouble, and I'll have Papaw tell that story later on tonight around the fire, so he's better at telling that story than I'm going to be. But so his son got himself in trouble and was running around loose in this area. A posse was looking for him, and they were having a hard time finding him. Give or take, maybe a month goes by and they still haven't found him. So they had brought the rest of the Boyatt family into town and held them there in hopes to lure his son out. And after a couple days, they let Rance himself out to tend to the farm. And that was the last anyone ever had seen of him. He was later found in his home, murdered, likely in the barn, which that site is probably right behind us. Like he was hung, and then somebody eventually found him. The house was locked and he was inside. The house already decaying. So that is the story of Ransom Boyatt. And this is Pretty much all that's left of his farmstead. It is a double fireplace chimney, so it must have been in at least the middle of the house. And then there's some foundation stones still here. Well, that was a much higher step coming off of it than it was stepping up on it.
Looks like they got a stovepipe hole up there or something.
Oh yeah.
They chiseled that into it. I mean, that's pretty, to me, I don't know how they do that stuff. How did they know that? I don't know.
This is local sandstone too, yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
But they chiseled that sandstone out, cut it.
Yeah. This is just a fascinating sight. This cabin was not big, as we were just talking about. You can see right here the foundation stones, and that's maybe 4 feet to the wall from the fireplace. It's like that on both ends. Okay, so one last time. There's the bluff that we sat on this past spring when we came out here. Right up there. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, I know. It's fun. So we're just looking at this little thing right here. It's obviously man-made. It's too perfect for nature. We're on a little feeder stream right behind the Boyatt house that feeds into no business. That's a pretty long wall, so we're kind of thinking at the moment maybe it shored up the stream bank from erosion or something. We're kind of in a small little floodplain right now, but we are just behind the house. Yeah, see, so it just, now I'm standing in the little feeder stream, but you can just see, it just falls right up on them trees. Yeah, it's got to be some kind of retainer wall or something. And here we are, the no business headwaters. Isn't that pretty awesome? We're about a half mile from the Boyatt cemetery, so thinking we might go up in that way too, but it's a pretty neat little sight. We're just walking along in this bottomland down here, which is really pretty. It's a really pretty piece of land. Been looking at these little red berries. I'm trying to figure out what they are. If I can find one. There is some. Yep. Okay, to me they're showing up kind of brown in the viewfinder, but trust me, they are very red. I don't know what they are. Papaw says they're edible. And we were just talking about how this bottomland would make a really pretty camp. And we found where somebody prior to us thought the same thing. I've named it Camp Bottomland. Future reference. We have found the marker sign for the Boyatt Cemetery. Papaw is modeling it for us. So, that's a pretty steep little hill for such a short distance. But here is the Boyatt Cemetery. It's about a half-mile from the farm site. A lot of these are just little stones, really no inscriptions. Yeah, truthfully, it was a much bigger cemetery than I first thought. You know, I was expecting maybe a small handful, 5 or 6 graves, but I bet you there's 30 here. Most are unlegible. Any more just moss-covered stones. And some other sign of life. It's interesting, you know, sites like this just make you curious, just want to know what happened, what it is. Just a lot of questions. Okay, one last look at the Boyatt farm. We've already passed through it and we're heading back towards our camp, but just to look back on it, and then the sun's setting on it, popping the colors out on the trees a little bit more. It's a beautiful place. Oh, that's a pretty good little afternoon. Now, camp chores.